Introduction. This video condenses the anarcho-communism of Peter Kropotkin, anglicized as Peter Kropotkin, found in his book The Conquest of Bread, 1909. This video provides Kropotkin's view of how anarcho-communism addresses 6 aspects of society. 1. Order. 2. Market. 3. Property. 4. Structure. 5. Decision-making. 6. Means of production. Order. Kropotkin's anarcho-communism is, quote, a society that recognizes the absolute liberty of the individual, that does not admit of any authority, and makes no use of compulsion to drive men to work, end quote. Consequently, he rejects traditional social control mechanisms such as the police and judiciary, claiming that they are, quote, a greater evil and become the source of those same abuses that you wish to remedy, end quote. In Kropotkin's society, individuals voluntarily associate and cooperate, and those who refuse to meet the obligations to which they have committed are told, quote, friend, we should like to work with you, but as you are often absent from your post and you do your work negligently, we must part. Go and find other comrades who will put up with your indifference, end quote. Market. Instead of a market, Kropotkin proposes that workers voluntarily exchange their products with each other. He gives the example of people in the towns saying to the peasants, quote, bring us your produce and take from our stores and shops all the manufactured articles you please, end quote. Adding that, quote, the peasant would only withhold what he needed for his own use and would send the rest into the cities, end quote. Property. Kropotkin writes, quote, the means of production being the collective work of humanity, the product should be the collective property of the race, end quote. Unlike other socialists, Kropotkin does not preserve personal property, which he sometimes calls private property. For Kropotkin, all property must be publicly owned, with no distinction between public and personal or private property. Structure. Kropotkin proposes members of society organize voluntarily into associations and commit to mutually agreed on obligations such as work hours and labor tasks. Since all property is commonly owned, Kropotkin says society, quote, will be compelled to abandon any system of wages, whether in currency or labor notes, end quote. He rejects the suggestion that people be differentially compensated according to their work, asking rhetorically, quote, which one of us can claim the higher remuneration for his work, end quote. Decision-making. Since Kropotkin's society is entirely voluntary, he rejects any form of authoritarianism, writing, quote, should an authoritarian socialist society ever succeed in establishing itself, it could not last, end quote. Without providing specific details about decision-making processes, Kropotkin writes that, quote, the best and fairest way is to trust the decision to those whom it concerns most nearly, end quote. Means of production. Kropotkin says all means of production, quote, would be common property, end quote. Kropotkin's anarcho-communism features radical libertarianism and common ownership of the means of production and all it produces. Finally, I'd like to thank my generous patrons, Elias Asvig, Duran Barnett, Alexander Curson, Shawnee Young, Andy Chaos, Tibby LTP, Thors, Fake Name, Niels Rethlin, Judge Sabo, Matthew Simmerall, Thomas Leonard, Martin T., Ben Lindquist, and John Larkin. Please contact me if I ever pronounce your name incorrectly. Thank you.